So just really getting to the point where we can see things for what they are, and not in a negative light. We can see things for what they are. Somebody might not have um, the restraint or the growth or the wisdom or the whatever. They might not have it. And knowing that you maybe didn't always have it or you don't fully have it yet, I think that'll allow us to walk around with a little more care in our eyes, in our words, in our thoughts, just in this world that we're in.
Hey, hey. All right, so we're going to continue with part 2 of regulating your peace. All right, well, if you did not see part 1, I'm going to explain to you what's in this video really quickly. Regulating your peace is so important, and it's something that we can all do and have at our disposal. So I want to run through some ways that you can incorporate regulating your peace into your life and making it a practice that can help you. Number 7 is seek support and connection. And you can seek support or connection with trusted loved ones. You can open up with whatever you feel comfortable sharing, whatever made it, whatever situation may be present. You can discuss those things with people that you trust and to the level that you feel comfortable as well. You can stop it at, I'm just going through a difficult time right now. Or you can, share or divulge whatever details you do want to share with that loved one. But there's also groups. And that's a great thing about, the internet. We can search for things. We can look up things that we're going through, that we're experiencing. If you have kids, you can support your kids. You can find groups for support for kids. And then also too, we can always go to a counselor, whatever platform you can use, some insurances. There's also things like, I know you've seen the commercials, BetterHelp. There are platforms like BetterHelp, but there are outlets for you to be able to talk. And for a period in my life, I would solely just write things down. And that was therapeutic for me, being able to just no filter, not having to mince words, not having to consider someone else's feelings, but just write freely about whatever experience you may be having, whether it is great or whether it is not so great, but just being able to get that out on paper. And then also too, knowing that you can speak freely with your Lord and Savior. If you have a faith background, that's an environment where prayer it's confidential, and you can speak openly and freely there as well. So there are many outlets for you to utilize. It's just, what do you trust and what do you feel comfortable divulging? So just know that support and connection are important with regulating one's emotions and just finding that balance in life. Number 8, build a purposeful routine. And that can consist of, maybe there's activities or causes that are important to you. And you actually get to engage with those activities or causes on a regular basis. So maybe you really love spending time in the sun. So for you, that could be, if it's not walking, maybe you sit out in the sun for 5 minutes a day and you just let the sun touch your skin, like you can feel it. Or maybe you enjoy gardening and there's a community garden where you go maybe once a week, or whatever your schedule permit, but that's something that it's important to you. Maybe you like working with children, and so you can find somewhere to volunteer or engage with kids, whatever that situation may be. But you can research, you can find these things that there's something I like to do, and how am I making time to stay connected to that or doing that? You like cooking. You can do that at home, but let's say you want to be in a more like structured cooking environment. So maybe you can you go to a cooking class, or you find a way to volunteer at a place that they need help with cooking, maybe some sort of food bank or food drive or something like that. But where it's like, this is a passion that you have, or this is something that is important to you and it gives you purpose. So you make time to do it. You make time to get it on your calendar. You make time to be engaged with it, to be involved with it. So if it's important to you, then, you do want to ensure that you're making time to engage in it. You might have creative passions like painting or writing. Do you schedule time, or do you have set aside time, or know that at least once a week, or a few times a week, you're writing something, or you're painting something, or you're sketching something, or if it's dance or music, do you have time set aside to play your instrument? Do you have time set aside to express yourself through dance? What are some things that you feel like it's purpose work, or it is feeding you in a sense? Are you making time for those things? So that's with number 8, making sure that you're building a purposeful routine. And then number 9 is managing your expectations. And this can help us so much in life with regulating our emotions, because sometimes the friction comes from when something did not meet our expectations, the way that we felt it should, or the way that we expected it, or the way that we give, so that we go above and beyond for people. And when we don't get the same in return, we can be frustrated, we can be upset, we can be offended, we can be hurt. And so that's why I think managing one's expectations can really help us regulate our emotions. Knowing that people are imperfect, I'm imperfect, you're imperfect, we are imperfect, and setting that expectation, I think, allows us to be pleasantly surprised in life, other than frequently disappointed. And it's hard because sometimes we're willing to do things that people aren't willing to do, and you could be hurt by that. Like, I would do that for you, why wouldn't you do that for me? But just knowing that there may be situations where someone can say, I did that for you, or I would do that for you, but you wouldn't do that for me or them. So just really finding that balance and knowing that no one's perfect, but what should I expect from people? Having more realistic expectations from people and being pleasantly surprised. And also too, sometimes you have to level up your circle, where something that may be extravagant expectations from one person might be the everyday norm for another person. So also too, finding your tribe, that can help with balancing out expectations, but also too, finding people who you can be in sync with the things that you expect, or that you desire. I think about the Great Expectations. I think that was a book we all had to read. But everyone's not going to inherit a ton of wealth or be kind enough to gift someone an inheritance. But what we can expect is kind of how we treat ourselves. We show people how to treat us by how we treat ourselves. But also to having grace with ourselves and with others, knowing that sometimes I'm going to drop the ball with myself. Sometimes people are going to drop the ball with me. But just having a boundary of what are my non-negotiable offenses. And then anything else, I can choose how I want to remain in contact with those that maybe don't do things exactly how I would. But they may not be deal breakers. So just in those instances, extending grace to those people. But that's managing expectations. I think that can really help us all. When you're managing expectations, I think it's important to celebrate not only the results, but celebrate progress, because progress makes a big impact towards what we do end up ultimately achieving. So you can celebrate doing something repeatedly. Like, this is my 3rd day doing a walk. And it may be maybe you're training for something, but the fact that you showed up on workout 3, that's getting you closer to your goal. So you should celebrate that. I think that's important as we work on big goals, to know that there are small milestones that we can celebrate in an effort to get us closer to our ultimate goal, whatever that may be. And then the 10th one, number 10, is practice forgiveness. And you know the saying, practice makes perfect. We're not always going to get it right the first time, sometimes the second time, but continuing to practice forgiveness, practice forgiving yourself, practice forgiving others, and eventually one day there'll be different things, different types of instances or offenses, and those things will you might not even feel anything. So where it was, I got to forgive you for this, or forgive her for that, or whatever, but you might get to a point where you're not even offended. You didn't even feel anything. Nothing rose up in you. There was no frustration or no anger. And not to get to the point of where people will walk all over you, but just to the point of where your emotions are so balanced and so regulated that you can discern, different interactions and the level of response they warrant or they merit from you. Really consciously deciding, what do you want to put your energy into? What will benefit you? What will serve you? And also too, identifying what small matters don't warrant a response. I think that's a certain point that we can all strive to get to. But I think when we choose to forgive ourselves, when we choose to forgive others, when we decide to let things go for the sake of our peace, I think we can reach a level of strong emotional intelligence. And that's my goal for myself. I'm sure that's your goal. You're here watching this video. But just to have a greater sense of peace in your life. And I think it can be contagious. I think it'll rub off on people where they too might evaluate situations and see how you handle something and take an inward look at themselves and say, okay, is this really that big of a deal? Sometimes it takes catastrophic things to put things in perspective for people where they're like, that doesn't even really matter, now that this big thing happened over here. But why do we have to get to that point? Why can't we, in our daily life, without something horrific happening, why can't we get to the point where we are able to see and say, that doesn't really matter? That doesn't really matter. I don't need to respond, or I don't need to respond like that, or I don't need to handle that situation like that. I might not even need to address the situation at all. So just really getting to the point where we can see things for what they are, and not in a negative light. We can see things for what they are. Somebody might not have the restraint or the growth or the wisdom or the whatever. They might not have it. And knowing that you maybe didn't always have it, or you don't fully have it yet, I think that'll allow us to walk around with a little more care in our eyes, in our words, in our thoughts, just in this world that we're in. Now, don't walk around unguarded. You still want to guard yourself. Everybody doesn't get to access you. Everyone doesn't get to speak to you a certain way. But be accessible. And I think you can be an example. So I was just thinking about the power of peace, right? That's the most powerful piece. The power of peace. I think it's you don't want to focus on not having any challenges at all, because that is not us getting to show that we are peaceful or that we have peace just from the absence of challenges. I think real peace comes from navigating difficult situations, navigating tough situations with a sense of grace, in spite of, regardless, being able to have a sense of grace. And for a man, it can be a sense of restraint. I think it takes very mature people to withhold very irrational actions. That takes a lot of strength from males and females to not let it go. Because it's a lot of situations that happen in life where people just let it go. They're like, no, I'm not even about to try. And I think it takes a lot of strength in trying situations to not just let it go, but to do your box breathing, to decide to list the things that are in your control, and in the midst of a situation, how can I grow from this? To self-regulate and ask yourself, what do I feel right now? And really mean it. What do you feel right now? Taking the time to journal, finding time to connect with others, finding time to connect with yourself, taking care of yourself, getting proper rest, eating things that fight disease, not feed disease. Really improving yourself. So I hope this was helpful. Check the description box. I'm going to put that pinwheel and maybe a few other things in there, so that we can just grow, get encouragement from each other. I like reading your comments. They are, they bring a smile to my face. I do. I like reading your comments. And then also too, I am enjoying growing with a lot of you all. So anyways, this is another one of our Car Chronicle episodes. And like I've mentioned before, you know, we're just people going through life as best as we can. But as we're going through life, as we are ascending and maturing and developing, let's bring as many people along with us as we can. There's room at the top. There's room at the top. And I think on our ascent, on our climb, we can encourage and bring others along with us. So if you haven't already, you can subscribe. All the things you can do that. And then share this video with someone if you thought it was helpful. If you didn't, just gonna leave it right here on YouTube. But anyways, have a pleasant day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.